The senator has had an illustrious career. He's was a Democratic United States senator from Alaska. He's probably most well known, and I completely am behind him on his work with the Freedom of Information Act and opening up government to make it more transparent and accountable. During the Vietnam era, he infamously read, I believe, 4,000 pages of the 7,000 confidential Pentagon papers on and put them in the Senate record, which was a great thing, and we are indebted for his service. Senator Mike Gravel, how are you doing, sir?
Very good. Thank you for having me on your program.
Well, thank you for coming on, sir. Well, first things first, so you're running for the Libertarian nomination, and I just have to ask you, though I know you're for a consumer tax, but you probably stand, when it comes economically, more left than most libertarians, and you're going up against probably a lot of right libertarians for the nomination. So don't you have an uphill battle, as most registered libertarians hold stock in their economic views and will probably care more about the money in their wallet? Or do you think you have a viable chance for the nomination, sir?
Oh, very much. In fact, I'm more libertarian than probably most libertarians. I'm certainly more libertarian than Ron Paul, and certainly more libertarian than Bob Barr. And I don't know where, when you say on economic issues, if you look at all the things I've done in the past, whether it's the Alaska Pipeline, whether it's the Pentagon Papers, the nuclear testing, this is all libertarian things. Now, I leave the Democratic Party. I don't have to change my principles or views. I was a Democrat, but all of my views were libertarian. A lot of people, when they come to the Libertarian Party, got to change their views. I don't have to change my views. I was libertarian all along.
Well, we'll just ask a few questions, I guess, about some of your economic policies. So, is it correct that you do support the fair tax?
Oh, very much so. In fact, I think that until we change our system of revenue, we're not going to be able to address and solve probably any of our domestic issues.
Well, understandably, yes, there needs to be reform, but couldn't someone say that a tax based on consumption isn't really stable, because just as this, for instance, the economic revitalization that's based upon, that Congress just passed a while ago, just sending tax rebates out, about $500 increments. Most people probably just use that to pay off their bills or save. I don't think that'll go directly into the economy.
Well, I'm not for that. I think what they're sending out right now is an abomination. It just compounds the problem. So no, I'm totally opposed to what's going on right now. Well, what's that got to do with the fair tax?
Oh, I was just wondering, because it's based on consumption, and one of the incentives is that if the money is in the hands of the consumer, then they'll go out and consume even more and then put money back in the economy.
Yet the market is tumultuous, and sometimes those people will either spend it on their bills, sometimes those people will save it, and sometimes those people will spend it. It is not a stable factor. And that's why you can't just assume that giving someone money, they're going to automatically put it back into the system. So you can't just assume that if you cut out income-based tax and just install consumer-based tax, that everyone will always be consuming. Yet the market is tumultuous, and sometimes those people will either spend it on their bills, sometimes those people will save it, and sometimes those people will spend it. It is not a stable factor. And that's why you can't just assume that giving someone money, they're going to automatically put it back into the system. So you can't just assume that if you cut out income-based tax and just install consumer-based tax, that everyone will always be consuming.
Hello?
Senator Gravel?
Joseph, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Today you had an interview on Iranian television, isn't that correct?
Yeah.
What did you talk about, sir?
Well, first off, they were talking about Petraeus in Iraq. Well, of course, Petraeus is just mouthing the White House, essentially the White House untruths, and he's trying to do it as skillfully as possible. But there's no light at the end of the tunnel, as he says. But there's no light at the end of the tunnel. What the hell are we doing there? We got to get out. And we're just killing people. And this is not our country. We're an army of occupation. And we should just plain get out, give them back to their country. They probably have every right to sue us for the damage we've done to their country on our phony invasion, and we should probably pay them indemnification for the damage we've done and the people we've killed.
But that is one thing you have been upfront and outspoken about even before we invaded, and that's something we can be proud of you being consistent on that position. But one thing someone might ask is, now that we are there, now that even we could say we are occupying, what happens though when we pull out? Will it be a repeat of something like that happened in Cambodia? Will there be unrest? Will there be genocide? What do you say when those points are brought up?
Well, first off, what happened in Cambodia, we're the ones that killed 3 million people over there, and there was a communist that turned around and stopped the Khmer Rouge in the killing fields. Now, what will happen in Iraq is real simple. We can turn around and appeal to Iran, Syria, Lebanon, to try to stabilize the area. We can appeal to the Chinese, to Russia. We can try to appeal to the EU and say, we made a mistake, we screwed up, help correct our mistake, and they have every reason to do that. There's nobody that wants to maintain a destabilized Middle East, which is what we have done.
But when you say also that there's not as much interest in amongst those other parties in helping any situation with Iraq, I mean, it's much easier to let the U.S. handle that problem in a lot of their minds. So how would you as president convince these other leaders to see it our way, I guess?
Well, wait a second, that's not so. Why would they want to continue to live in a neighborhood that's been destabilized, and wars could spill over into their neighborhoods? No, they all have a very, very strong stake in stabilizing what's going on in their. Let's take Iran. Iran would certainly want to stabilize what's going on in Iraq. The same thing with Syria. Because what we found out with the First World War is when you start something, boy, I'll tell you, all the governments could wind up falling and changing, and so they don't want to have that happen. So no, but the problem is that we're there, and as long as we're there, you're going to have instability, and there's nothing these other people can do to bring about stability.